can talk to them however I want.
Every family has their ups and downs. But some women take it very personally. A woman uses innocence for revenge.
She was going to take the things that they cared for the most.
They looked so innocent, but yet they were lifeless.
Don't care.
A teen plans to be a rich orphan.
She hated her parents more than anyone can imagine.
You don't even know his family.
And tradition sets mother against daughter.
If she couldn't live the life that they wanted her to, then she shouldn't live at all.
These deadly women don't go far to find their victims. They keep it in the family. Some women can't cope on their own.
She always seemed to need a man in her life.
They need a man to adore them.
Sandi got what she wanted.
Or watch out.
They were completely unprepared for what they found inside the house.
Paris, Southern California, 1986. Divorcee and mother of 3, 22-year-old Sandi Nieves is hoping the second time's the charm. She marries 36-year-old David Folden.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to witness the joining of Frank and Sandi.
They meet in the most unusual circumstances.
Sandi married a man who, 2 years earlier, had been married to Sandi's mother.
Now pronounce you man and wife.
All in the family.
She seemed to be a woman who was always looking for a man in order to be able to support her and her children.
Her mother disowns her, but Sandi doesn't mind. She and David have a growing family of their own.
She had 2 more daughters with him.
David proves his devotion
She's sound asleep.
when Grandpa becomes daddy.
How would you feel if I adopted the other kids?
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I love them like they're my own.
When he married Sandi, he adopted her 3 children from her first marriage.
To the outside world, Sandi appears to be a perfect mother.
Oh!
The children were very well behaved. They were well-mannered. They were always immaculately turned out.
David's row. He's on your team.
Modeled kids, kids that you'd like to have as your own.
But when things don't go Mom's way,
We want David! We want David! We want David!
Who did that?
Come on, it was just an accident.
Inside the home was a different story.
Tell me who did it, or you'll all be blamed.
That's enough, Sandi. Sandi, that's enough.
Dare you? You do not interfere with me.
Sandi was, to say the least, strict with the kids. In fact, unreasonably strict.
You're the one that's always talking over me. These are my children.
They're my children, too.
They were very controlled, very, very obedient, almost like little soldiers.
No, they are not.
You are acting crazy and controlling.
She was very controlling, and Sandi got what she wanted.
I can talk to them however
this is
I want.
not
They're
what
mine.
David wants. After 8 years of marriage,
Crazy and controlling.
he tires of Sandi's tough love.
You try to control everything.
Crazy! I'll get you crazy!
They got a divorce. The marriage didn't last.
Now a single mom of 5, Sandi is not alone for long.
Sandi was the kind of woman who seemed to always need a man in her life.
Sandi eventually started dating a younger man who was in his 20s.
To Sandi, he's husband material.
You know my kids love you.
But young Scott isn't ready to be tied down.
Yeah, they're cute.
Probably highly unlikely to want to step in to a situation and be the stepfather of 5 young children.
Scott decides he won't be under her control.
She wanted to get married, and he didn't.
But I'm not ready to be a dad.
And eventually they did break up.
Sandi tries to get back on track without a man in her life.
She attended police academy. She was hoping to become a police officer.
But Scott leaves her a parting gift.
What was really devastating to Sandi was that he not only dumped her, but he left her pregnant. And she realized that she could not care for a 6th child on her own.
Can you please call me? We need to talk.
Eventually, she had an abortion, something that was very much against her nature.
Because she was Mormon, and that conflicted, it clashed with her beliefs. It made her feel guilty.
When a woman has an abortion, there is, within a few days, a rather abrupt hormonal shift that can cause a significant mood swing. If a woman goes in to have an abortion and she's already upset, there's a good chance when she has that mood swing, it's not going to be good. She's going to be depressed and anxious.
Sandi's losing control of her life. And things get worse when her ex-husband, David, wants out of the adoption.
Sandi received papers notifying her that her second husband had reversed his adoption of her 3 older children. Sandi will potentially see a big drop in her child support payments.
Sandi's now lost all control.
I think it pushed her over the brink.
June 30th, 1998, Saugus, California.
Okay, settle down.
Just days after 34-year-old Sandi Nieves has an abortion,
One over there.
she decides to give her 5 children a special treat.
They were going to have a slumber party.
They were having a party to watch television, watch movies, and have popcorn.
It was the first time the children ever had a slumber party together in the house.
But that party will change the family forever. The next morning, the house becomes a potential crime scene. Sandi and her 14-year-old son are outside, dazed and confused.
She had no memory.
Nothing at all?
That she just couldn't remember anything that had happened.
Inside the house, police officers are horrified by what they find.
They found 4 girls still in their pajamas, still in their sleeping bags, and they were all dead.
These little girls looked so innocent, but yet, you know, they were lifeless.
It was determined that they died from carbon monoxide poisoning.
When Sandi is told her 4 young daughters are dead, her reaction is unusual.
But there was no emotion in her face. She was just very blank and matter-of-fact about it.
Detective Dolores Scott is one of the first to search the home. She smells gasoline.
4 different pours of gasoline in the hallway. The oven was open, and there was a singed kitchen towel.
There are signs of a fire, but it's not intense enough to burn more than the carpet. And they find letters.
She was very angry at her second husband, and she also felt heartbroken over her breakup with her ex-boyfriend and the abortion. And she wrote letters letting those men know exactly how she felt.
They were basically like goodbye letters. We took them as suicide letters. Everything that we found in the initial stage of the investigation led to her.
It becomes painfully clear what happened that night.
After the movie was over, the children settled down to sleep.
She had poured gasoline on certain spots in the house.
1.5 gallons of gas were used.
She has another message for the former men in her life.
She was angry. She was a woman scorned. She was going to take the things that they cared for the most, which was the children.
I'm gonna have the last word and take everything from you.
Sandi doesn't need a flame to kill her children. The smoke will do it.
She taped the doors and windows, probably thinking that that would keep the smoke in the room, not knowing that the fire needed oxygen.
As the girls start to suffocate, one begs her mom for help.
Mom, I need to go to the toilet. I feel sick.
As she needed to go throw up.
Well, throw up on the floor.
Sandi said no. Stay where you are and just throw up on the floor.
Put your head under the blanket.
She told the children to keep breathing into their blankets.
These children were so controlled by her and so obedient, they just took that as, okay, mommy knows best.
By morning, the 4 young girls are dead. Sandi and her only son escape.
Sandi may have intended on dying with her children. What was supposed to be a murder-suicide turned into simply a multiple murder.
In April 2000, Sandi goes on trial. She commits one last terrible act.
She pointed the finger at David. If it wasn't bad enough that we knew this woman had deliberately tried to murder her kids by fire, now she was going to try and save herself by pinning it on her one surviving son.
She'd lost 4 children. What's one more?
The jury doesn't buy her story. Sandi Nieves is convicted of murdering her 4 daughters and attempting to murder her son.
She was sentenced to death.
Sandi wanted the world to see her as the perfect mom, but her children were just pawns in her deadly game.
Sandi was of sound mind. She murdered her 4 children and tried to murder her 5th because she was angry at the men in her life who had gotten her pregnant.
These were little girls. One of them was 5 or 6 years old. The oldest girl that died was 12. They were just beginning life. It still bothers me every day because you just can't get them out of your mind. It's devastating.
When blood isn't thicker than water.
Where did you two meet?
Doesn't matter.
Hatred, greed, and jealousy.
Family ties can be severed permanently.
I want to hear it. I want to listen to their screams.
In an affluent suburb of Fort Worth, Texas, in the early 1990s, high school graduate, 18-year-old Nicole Yesconis is having more than the usual teen angst.
Nicole's parents divorced when she was 11, and she went to live with her father.
She was in therapy for depression and trying to understand her father and mother's divorce.
Her father, Bob's second marriage to 48-year-old Alitha makes matters worse.
Hey, Nicole, got a sec?
Nicole became jealous, oddly, that her father and stepmother were living in such luxury. She didn't speak to her dad and stepmother. She resented them very much, but they wouldn't give up on her.
The only bright light in her life is boyfriend, 18-year-old Jeremiah Wetmore. Not exactly the boy next door.
So Nicole, who does she pick for really her first big love? The baddest boy in town. The rough guy, the tough guy.
So, where did you two meet?
Doesn't matter.
He was scary. He was a cutter. He had carved on himself. He had emotional/mental issues.
The teenagers move in together, but Nicole still expects Dad to pay the bills.
I look at Nicole and I see a spoiled little girl who would ask Daddy for what she wanted and demand it. And perhaps when she was little, Daddy gave it to her.
I need another loan.
What's it for this time?
Power bill.
Nicole believes that she can have whatever she desires.
You can't expect me to keep bailing you out.
You can afford it.
I want that. I want this. Give me that. Why? Because I deserve it. I'm owed it by society.
Best is to shoot him.
When Dad threatens to cut the money off, Nicole decides she needs a permanent solution.
Don't care. Just kill them both.
If her father and stepmother happened to die, that she would inherit a great deal of money.
Do it properly, else we won't get the insurance money.
Trust me, it'll be easy.
Jeremiah has a history of violence, so when Nicole enlists his help, he doesn't hesitate.
Jeremiah, who was known to be a violent psychopath. This is the boy she chose. I wonder why.
Bang.
January 29th, 1994.
Aletha, which one is it?
Bob and Alitha Yesconis invite Nicole and her boyfriend over for dinner, while her parents are preparing the pasta. Nicole prepares a surprise of her own.
Nicole wanted her parents dead and their money so she could move on with her life.
Mansfield, Texas, 1994. Bob Yesconis is hoping for a happy family get-together with his daughter.
Well, let's hope for a peaceful night.
It'll be fine.
But Nicole won't be coming to dinner.
I reckon I should stay here.
At the last minute,
What do you mean?
Nicole pulls out.
You go, take Michael. You might need his gun.
Michael!
She sends a friend, 17-year-old Michael Heath, in her place.
Heath was the go-along buddy that just thought, you know, I'm 17 years old and I've got a .357 revolver tucked. He was just in it for the good time ride.
He's coming.
Nicole doesn't want to get her hands dirty, but she still wants to be involved.
Ring me before. I want to hear the shots.
What they came up with was that Jeremiah would force Nicole's father to call her, and then he would shoot them, and Nicole could listen to that over the phone.
I want to hear it. I want to listen to their screams. I want to listen to them pleading, begging for their lives. What does that say about Nicole? That she doesn't want to be there, but she wants to hear it. She wants to share in the madness.
She hated her parents more than anyone can imagine.
So Michael and Jeremiah, they drive up to the house, they walk up to the door, but what we know is, inside their jackets, they got weapons.
When the guests arrive, Bob's surprised his daughter isn't with them.
Hey, how you doing, Bob? Nick's running late, so I got a lift with Michael.
Hi. Nice to meet you.
Nicole said you wouldn't mind.
No, not at all. Come on in.
The parents invite him in. Come on in.
Back at her apartment, Nicole is waiting to listen to murder.
She said she expected to hear the shots.
Nicole's running late. We have one more for dinner.
But Jeremiah doesn't stick to the plan. He jumps the gun.
It kind of got to a lull, and he finally just thought, oh, hey, you know, I've got them both right here. Might as well do it.
Can I offer you a drink? Would you like it? No. Wait.
There's no calling Nicole, there's no nothing but gunfire and blood. That's all there is. Jeremiah shoots Robert first. Because why? He needs to take out the threat. She knows that she is next. There can be no other worse feeling than knowing you're gonna die.
For 2 days, Bob and Aletha are missing.
Hello?
Concerned co-workers call the police.
It's Yesconis.
As I remember, the front door was completely unlocked. They had a crime scene with 2 dead bodies in a dining room, several shell casings, not much else.
When Nicole is notified, she reacts strangely.
She didn't seem as upset as one would having just lost her father.
Yeah, we're having my daughter and her boyfriend over.
What's more, neighbors tell police Nicole was expected for dinner 2 nights earlier.
Then the police got an anonymous phone call about Nicole's involvement. She clearly manipulated Jeremiah into doing this and thought she was going to walk away scot-free.
It's enough to ask Nicole to take a polygraph.
Do you know who killed your father?
No.
That was a biggie. I mean, that was one of the main things that helped get the ball rolling.
Knowing she's in trouble over the coming days, Nicole decides to talk about her boyfriend, Jeremiah.
It's Jeremiah.
What about him?
He's violent. He's got a killing nature.
She was not involved. Her violent, dope-smoking boyfriend had misconstrued some of her comments, and she never intended for this really to happen.
He made it happen.
But when police talk to Jeremiah, they get another story. He confesses all.
When I asked him how'd it feel to shoot those people at point-blank range in their own dining room in their house, he kind of hunkered down just a little bit and got a grin on his face, and he said, "What a rush." But he was not obviously the mastermind.
Jeremiah Wetmore pleads guilty to capital murder and is sentenced to life. Michael Heath pleads guilty to conspiracy to commit capital murder. He receives 35 years in prison.
I don't think Nicole could have ever killed her parents herself. Nicole didn't want to get her hands dirty, and she didn't want to go to jail.
In 1995, Nicole Yesconis is behind bars, guilty of capital murder.
Nicole could have been anything she wanted to be, but instead, she's a murderer.
The poor little rich girl is given life with no chance of parole for 40 years.
I think there were 3 factors motivating Nicole to have her parents murdered: hatred, greed, and jealousy. And that's a very potent drug.
A woman straddling 2 cultures.
She seemed to dominate the family.
You smile or else.
Turns her faith into fury.
Disobey us, and this will happen to you.
The riverside town of Warrington, northwest England, October 2002. 16-year-old Shafilia Ahmed makes plans for the weekend.
Hey, would you like to come see a band on the weekend?
That's a great idea. You want to go?
I know I want to, but...
Just think about it.
She was a bright, bubbly girl. She worked very hard at school. She had a lot of friends.
All 7-7.
Shafilia is no rebellious teenager. She's a bright student with big dreams.
Shafilia wanted to be a lawyer, study law at university, and then later on in her life perhaps become a prosecutor or a defense lawyer.
Such a dedicated student should be the apple of her parents' eyes. But 39-year-old Farzana Ahmed and her husband Iftikhar have a strict religious code.
Shafilia wanted the lifestyle that all her friends had at school. She wanted a boyfriend. Iftikhar and Farzana did not want that.
Her parents come from a very different culture.
Both Farzana and Iftikhar were originally from Pakistan. Iftikhar moved to Bradford and was set up with Farzana through an arranged marriage.
Do something.
They want their eldest daughter, Shafilia, to follow in her mother's footsteps.
Dad? Dad?
They wanted a daughter who was like Farzana, who was happy to agree to an arranged marriage.
Fraternizing with Western boys is not acceptable.
Farzana seemed to dominate the family. It seemed that she was the brains behind the pairing.
Farzana believes her teen daughter is shaming the family.
They had found numbers of boys that she'd had on her phone, as probably any teenage girl would have.
I was just talking to a boy from school.
You were acting like a whore.
The parents were very against this. This was absolutely not the way to live your life.
Who is this?
He's just a school friend.
You don't even know his family.
Why do I need to know his family?
Shafelia feels the full wrath of her mother's fury.
She squeezed her neck so hard she left a mark. Of course, she couldn't let society see that, so she kept her home from school.
For days, the teenager is kept prisoner in her own home.
She wrote many poems and letters describing the hurt and turmoil, the fear she felt living with her parents.
She wrote in her diary, "I wish I could please my parents, but all I do is bring shame to them." Shafelia's diary revealed that she didn't hate her parents. She loved them and wanted their approval. They just wouldn't give it.
When Shafelia is still away from school a week later, her concerned teacher pays the Ahmeds a visit.
Her teachers knew there was an issue.
This is my wife, Farzana.
Nice to meet you.
They didn't know the extent to it. They didn't know the real problems that were going on.
Mr. Ahmed, why hasn't Shafelia been at school?
The visit forces Shafelia's parents to send her back to school.
She's been unwell.
But that's the last place they want her to be.
They feared, every time that they weren't with her, they feared what might happen to her. They didn't want her out of their control.
Shafelia's parents come up with a plan to solve their problem.
What did you miss the most?
She was outside school and chatting with her friends, normally in the way that any teenager would.
What's wrong?
He pulled up in his car, grabbed her into the car and drove off.
They know exactly how to shield their daughter from Western ways.
Shafelia's parents bought tickets for her to go to Pakistan.
This is more than a family holiday.
I'm ready.
Her mother plans something special.
She wanted her to go back to Pakistan, live in the mountains, and marry a man a decade older than she was.
Farzana knows her daughter won't go quietly.
What's wrong with her?
Nothing. She's just tired. Help her get into the car.
So she drugs her.
A lot of this was pure hate and rage. If she couldn't live the life that they wanted her to, then she shouldn't live at all.
In a remote farming village in Pakistan, February 2003, Shafelia is on a promise.
Aged just 16, she was taken to Pakistan to meet her would-be groom, the man that they had decided would marry her.
My son would be very good for your daughter.
I think that will be a very good arrangement.
You smile or else.
Shafelia can't face the life her mother forces upon her.
She finds some bleach in the bathroom of the house where she was staying, drinks the bleach.
Bleach is a strong chemical used for cleaning. It burns everything in its path. When you drink it, it destroys all of the tissues that line the inside of the mouth, the esophagus, and the stomach. So there is tremendous pain. It was the desperate act of a frightened young woman who didn't want to be married to an older man in Pakistan.
But her mother shows no sympathy and refuses to call for medical attention.
It's shocking that Shaffilia had no medical attention. It is stunning to me that they could have watched her suffer. They probably didn't care at that point if she lived or died. They didn't want anything to do with her.
In 2003, 16-year-old Shaffilia Ahmed avoids an arranged marriage in Pakistan, but at a terrible price. She is seriously ill after drinking bleach. The family returns to England.
She went to hospital herself. It wasn't the parents that took her to hospital. She realized she was ill and needed help.
The suicide attempt leaves Shaffilia weak for months. But by September 11th, she's back to her Western ways.
Iftikhar.
She turned up without a coat on and a T-shirt.
Sit.
And they deemed that to be a disrespectful Western style of dress. They were furious.
How dare you wear that top in public?
Mom has had enough of her defiance.
Where is your coat?
Stop it, Daddy!
A lot of this was pure hate and rage. This was a girl who, as they saw it, had brought utter shame on their family, had continually disobeyed them.
Shaffilia's sister watches helplessly.
Just finish it here.
During the attack, Farzana shouted, "Finish it." She wanted Shaffilia dead. Iftikhar grabbed a carrier bag and stuffed it inside her mouth to smother her, to stop her from breathing.
She couldn't take a breath, and when she did try to breathe, all she got was the plastic that she inhaled deep into her mouth. Her father put his knee into her chest and upper abdomen. Her chest wall could not expand. Basically, she was suffocated. And her parents held that plastic over her mouth and nose for another 5 or 10 minutes until they were absolutely certain that she was dead. The parents wanted to send a message. Disobey us, and this will happen to you. We are powerful, you are not.
They dump their daughter's body in the River Kent. Swear their family to secrecy and tell friends Shaffilia's run away.
When her parents were asked about it, they just shrugged their shoulders and said she's run away.
They wouldn't even release a picture of her. They wouldn't release her surname because they thought it was going to bring shame on their family.
Then, 5 months later, Shaffilia's body washes up on a riverbank.
Was badly decomposed. She was identified by her jewelry and by her dental x-rays.
All signs point to murder.
Why do I need to know his family?
And the British police know about this family's troubled past.
The police, very early on, suspected that the parents were behind this.
The police placed listening devices in the Ahmed home, hoping the parents will incriminate themselves.
They heard Shaffilia's mum, Farzana, warning the other children not to say anything. It wasn't specifically said that this was about the murder, but it was clear what was implied.
But there is no solid evidence against them.
There was no way that they could charge them with anything.
And Shafilia's siblings stay silent.
Watching your sister get killed, you must immediately think, well, who's going to be next?
They threatened their children that if they said anything, the same thing would happen to them. They really created a veil of terror.
The case goes cold for nearly a decade. Until one of Shafilia's sisters is questioned over a robbery. Now an adult, she finally talks.
There's something else I'd like to talk to you about.
For Alicia, it's impossible to overstate how frightening a situation this was for her.
Your sister's murder.
She told the police what had happened.
It was Mum and Dad. Mum said she was a disgrace.
She sang like a bird.
It must have been horrendous for Alicia to keep that secret about the murder of her own sister for so long.
Police were so concerned for Alesha's welfare, she was put into witness protection. They believed her parents were that dangerous. They had already killed one child. What would stop them from killing another? Nothing.
Farzana and Iftikhar Ahmed are arrested. In August 2012, they are convicted of murder and sentenced to life. No chance of parole for 25 years.
That Farzana was the main instigator of the murder of her own daughter. How could she encourage her own husband to join forces with her to kill this child, this innocent child?
Farzana killed one daughter and put the rest of her children through 10 years of silent torture.
For Shafilia's siblings, watching such an attack, watching their sister die in front of them, must be something that is going to live with them for the rest of their lives. She was the worst type of mother you could imagine.
These deadly women made sure there was no home sweet home. Sandi Nieves sacrificed her children to break their father's hearts. Nicole Yesconis wanted her inheritance more than her parents. And Farzana Ahmed killed her daughter so she couldn't live the Western way. They took the lives of those they once loved and kept it in the family.